Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Tina Talks Finance. This month's theme is back to school. And as I mentioned last week, I met with my friend Amy Lee from the Council on Economic Education, and she gave me some tips that I can share with you about raising money smart teens as well. The first tip is a book called How to Turn $100 into $1 million: Earn, Save, and Invest. It's created by the creators of Biz Kids and Bill Nye the Science Guy. So it's a fun way of incorporating personal finance into the growing up experience. So it's a colorful book and it's a fun and funny way to learn about money. There's a lot of humor in that book, but it's intended for middle school students. But it would be a great addition to any homeschool curriculum, or if you're teaching your kids online right now, you might want to just add that as a supplement for their education. Another tip is allowance. We talked a little bit about that last week with the younger kids, but this is a higher level. So it will teach your teenager how to budget in a low pressure situation. So not being able to go to the movies with their friends is a lot less of an impact than not being able to pay your electric bill after you graduate high school. So if we start young, then we have a better chance of them being able to incorporate those healthy habits in their adult lives as well. Also, when they earn money, they learn that work ethic. So it's okay to have your team earn that allowance and not just give it to them, because if they work for it, they'll probably handle it better, and it does instill that work ethic. Also, if they maybe encourage them to start a business so that they earn their own allowance, that can build an entrepreneurial spirit. And when we're thinking about building assets, owning your own business is a faster way to own those assets than probably any other way if it's a successful business. And starting to learn how to run a business while they're still living at home is much, again, lower pressure situation than when they're 30 or 40 trying to run a business to feed their families. Also, for the parents of kids ages 3 to 23, we have a book called Make Your Kid a Money Genius, Even If You're Not. And I just happen to have a copy of this book right here. It's by Beth Koblinger. And I wanted to read you a little excerpt, something that you might think about. So this one is about parenting in plastic and which kids are right for your kid. The problem with cards is that they feel like monopoly money and result in kids spending more than they would if they had to start with cold, hard cash. That said, here's a list of your options. And they talk about prepaid debit cards. They talk about different types of credit cards that you can add your child to. They talk and they have the pros and cons of incorporating those for your kids as well. And that's just one of the tips that they have in this book, which I found very interesting. And something else I wanted to point out is I checked this out from the library. If you see this little spine here, you'll see that it came from the Pioneer Library System. And speaking of the library, they are a great resource for your team. They have kept up with the times better than most, and it's not just books anymore. They do have books, but they have different ways of getting those books. They have streaming services. They also have downloadable books. They have audio books. They have, you can still check out books during COVID. Obviously, I did that yesterday. But also, if you want to download the books, like what I mentioned earlier, it wasn't in print, but it wasn't a downloadable copy. So that means that you have access to that for longer. Also, you might want to take a class or learn a language. Your team could write a resume for their future job, or they can read magazines or newspapers. Maybe ask them to bring a current event topic to the dinner table so that they get used to reading and understanding and thinking for themselves. Also, big library resource that my library offers are tutoring services online. And what that means is while you're trying to teach your kid fifth grade algebra, you might want to use that tutoring service. I know I definitely would if I was trying to teach that to my teenage child. So instead of you having to be the one that teaches everything, maybe start to incorporate that into your daily lives. Moving on to the next little tip, and this is the final one, is the Oklahoma Jumpstart Coalition. I believe in this organization so much that I joined the board almost 10 years ago. They have bi-monthly member meetings that provide a place for financial professional development or just to learn more about what's happening in finance across the country. Our next member meeting will be free and virtual on September 23rd from 11:30 to 1. And we will be learning about the ICAP, which is the Individual Career Academic Plan, and the Oklahoma College Assistance Program will be presenting that. And the ICAP is a new standard that's being implemented in Oklahoma that incorporates career development into the high school experience. And it will allow high school students to develop that career path before they graduate and the stakes are really high and they don't have a plan. So it's kind of nice to be able to do that in a controlled environment instead of being thrown to the wolves when you turn 18. Any questions about what I've talked about today? If you have any of those questions, just pop them into the chat. Just give you a few seconds to type those in. Okay, well, thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Tina Talks Finance. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more, please search hashtag Tina Talks Finance to view our previous recordings. I hope you'll join us next Thursday at 10 a.m. Central when we start to talk about debt reduction. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.